This feeling is a feeling of adrenaline, eyes colliding, worlds colliding. Now let me start my speech with an alarming tragedy. 50 years ago, a scientist put forward my utopia with unlimited food and water, free from predators, diseases, or any forms of threat. And it was large enough for 3,500 miles away. The scientists monitored the growth of the small society day by day. But can you guess what happened to them 2 years later? They were all dead. When the population peaked at 2,200, there's something weird going on. There's an awful lot of violence, murder, and even cannibalism. And there's obviously sufficient food for everyone. And after that is the death of a society in which a paradise turns into a hell. So this is not the quirky plot of some dystopian fiction. This is a real experiment performed by American researcher John Calhoun, who spent half of his life repeating the same experiment for 24 times, which all ended like hell. And he believed that what the device has gone through is something called the behavioral sink, which is the collapse in behavior caused by psychological factors caused by overcrowding. But we've seen much higher population density in nature. A beehive usually has 20,000 to 80,000 bees living together, and he seems perfectly happy with it. So what if spatial density is actually not the true cause of it? Instead, what if social density is actually the true direct cause of behavioral sink? And the social density I'm talking about here is the number of interpersonal interactions that are occurring in space. And being trapped in an enclosed box, mice have nowhere to escape, and they're forced to socialize with each other all the time. They started treating eating as a communal activity, and they were stuck to each other, showing signs of anxiety, confusion, and even fear when they're left alone. They were scared to be lonely. They also get so frustrated whenever someone interrupted their nap. Sounds familiar? In fact, we're not that different from mice. Traces in the hormones, organs, social hierarchies. There's no absolute reason why the same thing will not happen to us. Now let us think about the big question: why and how this excessive socializing could impact us mentally and alter our behaviors. All problems are interpersonal relationship problems. It sounds like nonsense when you first hear about it, but the more you think about it, the more you believe it's true. Concerned about your appearance? That's because you've seen gorgeous people on Instagram. Worried about not being successful enough? That's because you've heard people's successful stories. Anxious about giving a TED talk? That's clearly a people problem, because I can still feel that rush of adrenaline now. Now you see what I mean. Hatred and jealousy, pride and prejudice arise when relationships are managed properly. So people must come with problems. But it's not all bad. There's still a reason why I sing, why we need for connections to our needs. It's so that we can connect to people to get what we want and need from others. Even so, too much socializing could cause us more harm than good. Because you're not able to get what you want from all the connections you have, yet you're still suffering from all the people problems you get from these connections. And the more you socialize, the more problems you have, and the more exposed to negative ideas you are. And these accumulated negative ideas potentially pave the way for behavioral sink. when your social circle is starting to get out of control, the first thing you will notice is a diminished free time in your timetable. While many people might overlook that, your personal time and space is actually much more beneficial than you thought. It improves concentration, reboots your brain, fuels you with creative ideas, etc. But the most important impact is that it allows you to let out your stress in your own safety zone. And the lack of personal time and space could have a detrimental effect on your physical, mental, and social well-being. And a perfect example that demonstrates this would be stressful marriage. Marriage is the tomb of love, some would say. And to be fair, marriage is the most common source of support and stress for most people. That's because when you form a family, you have to give up parts of your personal time and space. And if you don't do it well, your relationship will either separate or suffocate. And among all the relational problems couples have faced, the lack of space was one of the most common and difficult ones. Do you know that almost 30% of the people in a relationship have felt that they did not have enough privacy and time for themselves? And for these people, their relationships have witnessed more frustrations, arguments, fights, and miscommunications. Their behavior has been more aggressive and stressful as they were slowly drowning in that emotional burden they have. Because they have no escape. And the same thing happened to mice. The mice also had no escape because they were living in an enclosed utopia, which meant it became common for mice to follow one another into the dens or apartments to rape or kill or eat. They couldn't unwind any of the emotional burden they had, and hence they were driven into insanity. Now, some of you may ask, how does this relate to us? I mean, we're not living in a utopia, we still have to pay our rents. So, how are we shouldn't be vulnerable to behavioral sin, right? Wrong. To be honest, I think we're at the critical point of sinking, and thanks to the misuse of social media. The connection between social media and social density is very simple. It breaks geological barriers so people across continents can share their ideas and methods. It creates a virtual platform in which millions and millions of people get together and share ideas and meet more people to their account. This is where many people make a living, make friends that last for a lifetime, or have life-changing inspiration. And personally, I enjoy using Instagram and YouTube a lot, since it gives me lots of big ideas to think about and procrastinate on. But when social media is overused, its benefits are outweighed by the detrimental effects it gives us. Although the platform itself doesn't pose any direct effects on us, they act as amplifiers of both the positive and negative impacts, when you're socializing with people. On these platforms, you're connecting with people 10 times as quickly as before. The burden and problems you get will also be 10 times worse. You can assess that all problems are people problems. More people, more problems. And not to mention how social media eats away personal time. People in the UK spend an average of 2 hours per day just on social media. And if I spend time on practicing my piano instead of aimlessly scrolling my phone, I could probably be a decent piano player and performing instead of giving a speech. And in my opinion, social media is just for meditation. When you see that daily intake with it causes harm to your body. And if there's one thing I would like everyone here to take away from my speech today, is that we have to change our attitude towards socializing. The society now is forcing us into thinking that the more you socialize, the more friends you have, the better it is. And people often praise the advantages of having more social connections while ignoring all the drawbacks it gives us, creating a false picture in which socializing is completely beneficial, completely good, when it's not. All of us are forced to become social butterflies just to get into a decent university, get a job, or just to be accepted by this world. And I'm just one of the millions who've been fooled by this. And throughout my childhood, I've been bullied and isolated because I was too shy, too quiet. And when I went into secondary school, I told myself that I have to be a talkative person this time. And I did. I forced myself to talk to everyone, anyone I've seen at school. And when I became popular, then yes, I seemed to. But where did it took me? Other than problem sleeping and problems expressing my true feelings, it also took me away from being myself. I built my self-esteem, persona, and even my whole identity just on people around me. But when I'm alone, confusion, anxiety, and fear, I'm scared of being alone. And that fear was so great that it almost cost me my life. Suffering from severe depression, I've tried to kill myself for over five or six times, just because of this, because I couldn't overcome this fear. And the most recent attempt was just 3 weeks ago. I bet most of you couldn't even realize it, right? Same with me. When I was nearly strangling myself, I also didn't realize that I'd already sunk in. We have to strike a balance between connecting and spending time with ourselves, or else we will be facing the same fate as the mice and as me. And to start off, we have to limit all the unnecessary social connections by valuing quality over quantity. Rather than wasting most of your time on people you don't love or you hate or don't care about, why don't you have more quality time with your loved ones? Cut those you don't need. Abandon those that doesn't make you happier. And leave those that need little for you. We must also leave some space for ourselves to rest and to breathe. Take some time every day to just do nothing. Allow yourself to feel bored, because boredom is where you escape, recharge, and self-reflect. And who would have thought that the biggest secret to preventing us from behavioral sick is to just do nothing? Thank you.